Rebecca thought she could escape, but the shadows had other plans. She moved to a new apartment on the other side of the city, leaving behind the memories of Lila, the mirror, and the whispers. The new place was bright and modern, with big windows and a comforting hum of life from the bustling street below. For a while, it seemed like she had left the horrors behind. Days turned into weeks and Rebecca began to feel normal again. She got back to work, made new friends, and even started sleeping with the lights off. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One night, as she unpacked her box of books she had been avoiding since the move, Rebecca found Lila's journal. She didn't even remember packing it, but there it was, tucked between two dusty novels. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The last entry sent chills down her spine. Rebecca's apartment feels off. There's a heaviness here, like something is watching us. I saw a shadow move today, but Rebecca didn't notice. I didn't want to scare her. I'll keep an eye on things. The date was the day before Lila disappeared. Rebecca closed the journal, her breath hitching. She felt the familiar cold prickle on the back of her neck, the kind she hadn't felt since the night she smashed the mirror. Slowly, she turned around. The room was empty, but she could feel it. The weight of unseen eyes. The whispers returned that night, faint at first, but growing louder as the hours passed. Rebecca sat frozen on her couch, clutching a blanket around her. Rebecca, it's not over. She shot up, grabbed her phone, and called the only person she thought could help, Ethan, her ex-boyfriend. Ethan had always been skeptical of the supernatural, but he cared for Rebecca deeply, even after their breakup. When he arrived, Rebecca spilled everything. The whispers, the shadows, Lila's disappearance, the mirror. Ethan listened, his expression shifting from disbelief to concern. "This isn't something we can handle alone," he said. "We need help." Ethan contacted a paranormal investigator he knew from a podcast he once hosted. The man, an older gentleman named Harris, arrived the next evening with an arsenal of strange equipment: EMF readers, cameras, and what looked like a bundle of dried herbs. Harris walked through the apartment, muttering to himself as the devices beeped and flashed. "There's something here," he said finally, his voice grim. "And it's strong. But it didn't start here. You brought it with you." Rebecca's heart sank. Harris explained that the entity was a type of parasitic spirit, one that feeds on fear and thrives in darkness. Breaking the mirror hadn't destroyed it, only freed it from its confinement. "It won't stop until it has you," Harris said, "and anyone else who gets too close." Rebecca felt a surge of guilt. Was it her fault Lila was gone? That Ethan and now Harris were in danger? "What can we do?" she asked. Harris set up a ritual in the center of the living room. Candles formed a circle around a small mirror he had brought, and he handed Rebecca a piece of chalk. "You're going to draw the symbols, I tell you," he said. "This will create a gateway. If we're lucky, we can trap it back on the other side." The room grew colder as they worked. Shadows flickered on the walls, and the whispers became deafening. "But Ed..." The voice was clearer now, deeper and angrier. "Do not defy us." The candles flickered wildly, their flames shrinking and then flaring, as if caught in a violent wind. Ethan stood guard with a flashlight, his face pale but determined. Harris began chanting, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. The mirror in the center of the circle started to ripple like water, and Rebecca swore she saw faces in the glass. Faces twisted in fear and agony. Suddenly the lights in the apartment went out. The whispers turned into screams. A shadow rose from the corner of the room, towering over them. Its eyes were voids and its long arms reached for Rebecca. Harris shouted, "Don't stop! Keep drawing the symbols!" Rebecca's hands shook as she finished the last mark. The shadow lunged at her, its icy grip brushing her arm, but the symbols began to glow. The mirror's surface swirled violently, pulling the shadow toward it. The entity screamed, a guttural, bone-chilling sound as it was dragged into the glass. And then, silence. The room warmed, the candles burned steadily, and the oppressive heaviness lifted. Harris collapsed into a chair, sweat dripping from his brow. "It's done," he said. Rebecca stared at the mirror. The surface was now smooth and ordinary, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. That night, as she lay in bed, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Leela's number. "Rebecca, help me." Stay tuned for next part. Please like, subscribe, and comment next part.